You ever hear something that didn't sound quite right, but you couldn't explain why? Not like a scream or a bang, more like a silence that didn't belong, a space that felt too still. That's how this story begins, with something not being quite right. Hawthorne Lane is the kind of neighborhood that makes realtors salivate. Neatly painted homes, trimmed hedges, kids on scooters. It sells safe the way fast food sells fresh. People wave when they see you. They bring casseroles when you move in. But there's a reason the older kids won't play near the oak tree by the school, and why the drains hum at night. This story isn't mine. It belonged to a woman named Elizabeth Granger. She was a fourth-grade teacher at Hawthorne Elementary, and she didn't believe in ghost stories. At first, she moved into the neighborhood in 2018. Young, eager, the kind of person who hangs up posters that say, "Learning is magic." She taught English, ran the garden club, and said good morning to every parent at drop-off. The first time she sensed something was off, it was small, minor. The school bell rang at an unusual time, 3:33 p.m. She double-checked the clock, shrugged it off. But it happened again the next Friday. Same time, 3:33. She asked another teacher about it. Got a shrug. Old wiring, they said. But no one seemed to care. No kids reacted. No staff took notice. Just that strange chime echoing through the empty halls. Elizabeth started keeping a journal, just to track the oddities. That's what she called them, oddities. Friday bell at 3:33. Students gone before dismissal. Hallways that echoed when they shouldn't. And then there was Kyle Mercer. Kyle was a quiet kid, liked drawing, always had a red pencil in his hand. Not a troublemaker, not even shy, just internal. One day he stopped coming to school. No warning, no parent call. Elizabeth asked the front office. They said Kyle had transferred. But when she pressed further, they said he'd never been enrolled in her class to begin with. But Elizabeth had his assignments, his name on her seating chart. She remembered tutoring him one-on-one. She had a drawing he'd made for her, an oak tree, and under it, a stick figure girl with a speech bubble that said, "Don't let them ring the bell." She thought maybe she was losing it. Stress, maybe. But then she noticed the yearbooks. Each class photo had names she didn't recognize, names that didn't show up in the school database. And when she asked the school secretary about them, the woman just smiled and said, "You must be thinking of someone else." It got worse after that. On the first Friday of October, the intercom clicked on during lunch. No announcement, just a low, humming tone. Students looked up in unison, and then went back to eating. Elizabeth asked her colleague if she heard it. The woman just blinked slowly and said, "What tone?" Elizabeth started recording everything. She placed her phone under her desk during faculty meetings. kept a GoPro running in her classroom after hours, took photos of every chalkboard, every hallway. She wasn't even sure what she was looking for. Until the day she found the door. It was behind the janitor's closet, half buried under a foldable whiteboard. Metal. Old. Unlabeled. It shouldn't have been there. The school only had one floor. No basement. No sublevels. She opened it. Concrete stairs led down into pitch black. Smelled like wet iron. The walls were marked with faint lines. 3 vertical slashes. She brought her flashlight and her camera the next day. And what she found at the bottom wasn't a boiler room. Wasn't storage. It was a classroom. Rows of desks, all facing a chalkboard. And written on that board, freshly written somehow, was a phrase, "We asked first." She didn't sleep that night. She reached out to local historians. No one recalled a sublevel classroom ever being built. The original blueprints for Hawthorne Elementary had no lower level. She went to the school board. No response. She called the police. They showed up, but only interviewed her. No one went to check the door. And the next day, it was welded shut. On Monday, her mailbox was empty. No school newsletter. No PTA flyer. Nothing. When she went to check the staff roster posted in the office, her name wasn't on it. But she still had a key. Still had her students. At least, most of them. And then came the Friday offering. She was walking by the gym during her planning period when she saw the sign on the door. Closed for retreat. It wasn't on the calendar. No one had mentioned it. But the hallway smelled like burnt lavender, and she heard voices chanting. Soft, rhythmic, wrong. She tried to record it. Her phone screen went black. Not off, just black. When it finally turned back on, her recording app had crashed. That night, someone left a note on her car. Typed, plain, no envelope. It said, "Stop asking, or we'll teach your replacement better manners." That's when she ran, but not before copying all of her files onto a flash drive. Audio, images, footage, personal logs. She mailed it to a friend 2 towns over, but it never arrived. Or maybe it did, and the friend forgot. That's the thing about the hollow. It doesn't just erase people. It erodes memory. It dissolves the questions that could have led you somewhere dangerous. But somehow, one copy of her files made it to the public library. Left in a napkin. Misfiled. Untouched. And that's where I come in. Because I found it. I didn't know what I was opening. I thought it was some local teacher's memoir. But the second I saw the oak tree in that drawing, I remembered something I hadn't thought about in 20 years. My own school had a tree like that, and sometimes on Fridays, we'd leave class early. No reason, no announcement, just retreat. I asked once, got detention, never asked again. But I'm asking now, because someone has to. And if you're still listening, you might be one of the only people left who can still ask too. Just be careful where that takes you. People who go missing don't always leave a gap behind. Sometimes it's like they were never there to begin with. That's the part that scared me most. The realization that Elizabeth didn't just vanish. She was erased. Not just from the school, not just from the district records, but from memory. I started asking around, quietly, subtly. Former coworkers, parents, past students. Most of them either didn't remember her or insisted she never worked there. One parent even said, "You mean Miss Garland? She's been the fourth-grade teacher for years." But Elizabeth had replaced Garland. I saw the documentation in her files. A full paper trail, except it wasn't there anymore. Even the school's own yearbooks had been altered. Her face, gone. The class photo replaced with a blurry copy. The names mismatched. The teacher labeled staff unlisted. So I changed course. Instead of looking forward, I went backward. To the retired ones. The ones who couldn't be reprogrammed so easily. I found a man named Harold Bennett, former science teacher at Hawthorne Elementary. Retired in 2006. Widowed. Quiet. Lived 3 towns over in a ranch house that hadn't seen paint in 20 years. I showed up with coffee and a lie. Said I was writing about great local educators and wanted to document the school's past. He laughed. Said I must be desperate for a story. Then I asked about Friday retreats. The smile dropped off his face like I'd flipped a switch. He closed the blinds, and for the next 2 hours, he told me things I can't stop hearing. He said the Friday offering started long before his time. He inherited it the same way every teacher did, without question. There was no formal meeting, no memo, no secret handshake. You just got a schedule with a black square stamped over every second Friday at 3:33 p.m. Harold said no one ever explained what it was, but everyone knew what to do. Students were escorted into the gym. Lights off. Lavender burned in the corners. They sat in a circle and closed their eyes. A chime would ring. Low, hollow. Not from a bell, from beneath the floor. Then the principal, always the principal, would read names from a list. Some kids would stand. Others would stay seated. No one spoke. No one ever remembered what happened next. He said he used to call it the forgetful hour, because every time it ended, no one seemed to know what had occurred, not even the teachers. He described it like waking up from a nap you don't remember taking. He tried once, just once, to record it. Left a tape recorder under the bleachers. The next day, he found the recorder melted. Not burned, melted. Like it had been exposed to heat or pressure. But there were no burn marks. Inside the recorder was a note, handwritten in a child's cursive. You don't get to listen if you don't learn how to ask. He showed me a box of items he kept from his years at the school, all locked in a cedar chest. Inside, old rosters with names he swore never showed up again. Permission slips for off-site enrichment trips that had no location listed. Photos with students blurred out, like the film rejected their presence. And one more thing, a folded piece of paper, thick, yellowed with age, torn down the center. He said he found it in the library stacks, wedged behind a copy of Where the Red Fern Grows. On it was a hand-drawn diagram, the layout of a school basement that didn't exist. The drawing showed an entry point behind the janitor's closet, a staircase that looped under the west wing, a central room marked only with a spiral. Then next to it, a line that read, "Classroom for those who remember." I asked if he ever went down there. He didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, "That's not a door you open. It's one you fall through." Later that night, after I left his place, I got an email. No sender, no subject, just a file titled "The Ledger, Final Draft." I almost didn't open it, but curiosity is a disease. Inside the file were lists, dozens of spreadsheets, all names, sorted by year, grade, and something called disposition. Some were marked withdrew, some absorbed, a few processed, but most were labeled unlisted. I searched Elizabeth's name. She wasn't there, but I found something worse. Her student, Kyle Mercer, the one who vanished. Disposition. Refused offering, redirected. And next to that, a red triangle symbol. I searched for more symbols, found dozens. Spirals, X's, keys, a cracked circle. Each one appeared randomly, but over time, a pattern formed. The symbols weren't random. They were outcomes, fates. The deeper I went, the more familiar some of the names became. Teachers, parents, even people in local government. Some had transferred out of state, but some were still listed, alive, working, with new names. Like Kyle Mercer, listed as Kevin Morin at a different school district 40 miles east. Same birthday, same photo, new name, new parents, and no memory of who he used to be. I tried to reach out to him. No phone number, no address, but I sent a message through the school online portal. Didn't hear back. But the next day, my own laptop screen glitched. For just a second, and on the screen, where my open folder should have been, were 3 words, center-aligned. "You're asking wrong." No app, no virus, just the message. Then it was gone. My cursor wouldn't move for 10 minutes. Harold Bennett passed away 3 days after I visited him. The obituary said natural causes. Quiet. Peaceful. But the house burned down the next night. Cause undetermined. Nothing from our interview survived. His cedar chest, gone. If I hadn't taken photos with my phone, I'd have nothing. And yet, the spiral diagram, nowhere to be found. Even my cloud backups came up blank. Every trace of our conversation, gone. All except the memory, and the sound that's been following me ever since. That soft, low hum every Friday at 3:33. There's a moment, somewhere between obsession and fear, where you stop asking if what you're seeing is real. You just ask if it's seen you back. That's where I was. Past the doubt, past skepticism, past logic. I wasn't trying to prove Elizabeth's story anymore. I was trying to keep hold of mine. Because the more I uncovered, the more uncovering seemed dangerous. And yet I couldn't stop. I kept going through the ledger file that showed up after Harold's death. Rows and rows of names. Hundreds of them. Students. Teachers. Occasionally, someone listed as non-faculty proximity. That one got me. I searched my own name. It wasn't there. Yet. But the file was dynamic. It updated live. Some entries were marked observed. Others, delayed witness. The worst were marked rewritten. Those entries had no names, just static symbols where the letters should be, like a corrupted file, as if their identities had been overwritten. I started noticing something else too. The spiral. It kept coming up in diagrams, ledger entries, classroom graffiti in the background of old photos. One of the files in Elizabeth's archive was labeled Rotation Behavior, CH. It was a video, grainy, dated 2021. The footage showed Principal Claire Hampton standing alone in the middle of the school's faculty lounge. She was spinning, slowly, arms at her sides. One rotation every 5 seconds. 12 full revolutions. Then she stopped, faced the camera, and said, "Remembering incorrectly is worse than forgetting. Please delete this file." Then it cut to black. I checked the metadata. The file had never been edited. Not once. Which meant she spoke directly into the camera. Spoke to Elizabeth. Knew she was recording. And knew it would eventually be seen by someone else. By me. I went back to Hawthorne Elementary. Not inside. Not yet. Just to the perimeter. The building looked wrong. Not aged, not damaged, just displaced. Like it had been dragged from somewhere else and dropped there. A structure pretending to be a school. I walked the property line, found an access point behind the gym. A vent opening. Inside was a child's drawing, taped to the wall. It showed an oak tree with eyes. Each branch curved inward, curling into a spiral. Inside the spiral, tiny stick figures. And below it, scrawled in red crayon, "This is where the ones who asked go." The next day, I got an email. This one had a return address. Sort of. It read, kmarin.student@willowbaydistrict.org. I knew the name. Kyle Mercer. The kid Elizabeth lost. Only now, he was K. Marin. A new name. A new town. New history. But something, maybe something buried inside him, remembered. The email said, "I think you're looking for her. She's not gone. She's somewhere lower. I saw her in the wall one night. I think she's still asking." That was all. No attachment. No follow-up. But it cracked something open in me. Because maybe this wasn't just about the kids, or the rituals, or the drain. Maybe Hawthorne wasn't hiding the hollow. Maybe it was the hollow. I dug deeper into local history. The land beneath Hawthorne Lane used to be a series of sinkholes, unstable terrain avoided by developers, until one corporation bought it up in the late 1950s. The Hollow Consolidation Group. Cute name, except it wasn't a joke. They went bankrupt within a decade, but not before completing one final project, Hawthorne Elementary. Public records showed they filed for permits to build a basement, but the design was rejected by the county, cited instability. Yet, materials were purchased. Concrete was poured. Invoices signed. The documents stopped suddenly, right around 1966, the year the school opened. Every year after that, one teacher gone. One student transferred without record, and each time the newspaper used the same line: no public safety risk. The district remains committed to community excellence. One article stood out. A third-grade teacher named Janet Lowell vanished mid-semester. Her husband filed a missing persons report. The school claimed she'd taken a sabbatical. 2 weeks later, her husband moved out of state, changed his name, but not before leaving a note in the public library's copy of Fahrenheit 451. Don't let them tell you it's just fire drills. Watch what happens when the bell rings 3 times. Don't forget her. It was unsigned, but the handwriting matched Janet's. I started feeling watched, not just online, not digitally, physically. My apartment door would be unlocked some mornings, not broken into, just unlatched. Drawers I hadn't opened were slightly ajar. One night, I found my name typed on a slip of paper tucked into the folds of my couch cushions. Just my name. Below it, disposition considered. I moved to a hotel the next day, but it didn't matter. The Friday hum followed me. That Friday, 3:33 p.m., my phone lit up. Not a ringtone, just vibration. I picked it up. The screen was blank, but there was sound coming through the speaker. A hallway, footsteps, a child humming, and then a voice, Elizabeth's voice. She whispered, "They don't feed on death. They feed on forgetting. That's the trade. That's the cost. The ledger doesn't record people. It records what people used to know." And then, silence. The call ended. I checked the call log. No number, no record. Just the time, 3:33. And one word left in my recent notes app, though I hadn't opened it. Spiral. That was it. A spiral. So now I'm left with this truth. Hawthorne Lane isn't just a street. It's a system, a pattern, an old agreement made by people who wanted to forget something so bad. They built a whole neighborhood to bury it. And maybe you're thinking, this is all too much, too impossible. But that's the point. That's why it works. Because it hides in the parts of life we think we've already understood. In routine, in bureaucracy, in rules. It turns memory into ritual. And when we forget, it eats. There's a kind of fear that's louder than panic, quieter than screaming. It's the kind that sinks in slowly, like ink into fabric. You don't notice it at first, but once it's there, it never comes out. That's what this was becoming. Not a ghost story, not a conspiracy. Something deeper, a kind of slow possession, not of the body, but of certainty. And it all circled back to one place. That door Elizabeth found behind the janitor's closet. The one that led nowhere, and then disappeared. Hawthorne Elementary is bright, sterile. Posters on every wall, all with slogans like "Kindness Counts" or "We're all buddies at Hawthorne." Every door has a plastic nameplate. Every hallway has security cameras, all of them blinking red, but none pointed at anything in particular. I found the janitor's closet, just as Elizabeth described. But there was no door behind the foldable board. No scratch marks, no drywall patch, just smooth, painted cinder block. Except my phone glitched when I approached it. Not a signal drop, a real glitch. The screen flickered, my flashlight pulsed, the compass spun wildly in circles. I took 3 steps back. Everything stabilized. I stepped forward again. Glitch. I knocked. No echo. Not solid like brick. Not hollow like wood. Something in between. Like skin stretched over bone. I pressed my ear against it, and I swear to you, I heard desks being dragged. I got out before I could think twice. Back at home, I checked my phone. The compass was still spinning, even in airplane mode. Then my voicemail dinged. One new message. No number. The audio was only 4 seconds long. A child's voice, whispering, "You're in the wrong class." Then, silence. That night, I had a dream. I was back in elementary school. Same chair, same scuffed tile floors. But everything else was wrong. The windows showed nothing, just gray. No weather, no trees, just static. The teacher turned around, but she had no face. Not blank, just overwritten. Like her features had been scrubbed out by too many versions. She pointed at me. "You shouldn't remember this." Then I woke up, and on my nightstand was a single index card. I didn't put there. Typed, laminated, like something out of a substitute teacher kit. It read, "This memory has been redirected for your safety. Thank you for choosing Hawthorne Lane." The next day, I dug into Claire Hampton, the principal, the woman Elizabeth caught on camera, spinning in circles. Her history was limited. Graduated from a now-closed teaching college. No photo. Her personnel file on the district site had no resume. Just one paragraph. Claire Hampton has been a guiding light for Hawthorne Elementary since her appointment. Her leadership reflects the values of community, discretion, and continuation. Discretion and continuation. Not excellence. Not student growth. Not academic success. Just discretion. It hit me then. They didn't want to be invisible. They wanted to be overlooked. Forgotten through routine. I kept going. A friend of mine in IT helped me spoof access to a private staff server used by district employees. Inside, I found a folder called Curriculum Support, Alternate Routing. It was full of lesson plans, labeled things like Friday Quiet Time, Tier 2, Absorption and Retention Exercises, Level 1 to 4, Witness Reduction Prep, Substitute Kit A. There was one file marked Read Aloud, 3rd grade. I opened it. It was a script, something the teachers were instructed to read aloud every other Friday. And it said, "Class, let's take a moment to remember those who helped us forget. We are grateful for what we do not know. Close your eyes, breathe in, listen for the bell. If it chimes, do not speak. If it echoes, you have been chosen." Then a blank line. Insert name of redirected student here. My blood ran cold, because this wasn't discipline. It wasn't punishment. It was ritual. Systematized, packaged, scripted. And then I found a file marked Elizabeth Granger, Incident Response. It was encrypted, but the title alone was enough to confirm it. They had a response planned for her. She had disrupted the spiral, and they had planned to seal the wound. Below it, a short sentence stood out. Reintegration attempt failed. Proximity witnesses expanding. Begin ledger recursion. I didn't know what that meant, but I felt like I was part of it now. The last file in the folder was a template. It looked like a standard school welcome letter. Dear parent, guardian, welcome to the Hawthorne family. Except this one had an added section in faded gray text, barely visible. Please acknowledge that your child's memories may be edited or adjusted for the betterment of community continuity. Any contradictions between past and present records are to be interpreted as growth. Questions are discouraged. There was a signature line at the bottom. No name, just a spiral icon. I closed my laptop, and all the lights in my apartment went out. No storm, no outage report, just total, silent darkness until my phone lit up. Not from a call, from a notification. New class added to your calendar. Observation, 3:33 p.m., Friday. I checked the source. It was tied to my Google account, but it wasn't a normal event. There was no option to delete it, only to join. I stared at it for a long time, and finally, I clicked decline. The screen dimmed, and then blinked twice, like a response or a warning. The next morning, my internet history was wiped. All downloads, gone. Email threads, blank. Photos of Elizabeth's drawings, the spiral symbol burned into my screen as a faint ghost image, as if the pixels themselves remembered. And I started to understand. The hollow doesn't just hide in places. It hides in formatting, in bureaucracy, in school systems, attendance slips, lesson plans. It uses structure to protect silence. It uses routine as camouflage. Elizabeth tried to pull back the curtain, and now she's in it, Not missing, not dead, just processed, filed somewhere deep, labeled disposition, witness, withheld. But I don't think it got her completely. I think there's a part of her still asking, still echoing in the gaps. And if you've ever forgotten a teacher's name, or a classmate who was just suddenly gone, maybe you've brushed against the hollow too. It doesn't need you to believe in it. It just needs you to accept the records. Once you accept the records, you stop asking questions. You ever see something you can't describe because there's no word for it? Not because you forgot, but because no one ever bothered to invent a name for that kind of wrong. That's what Elizabeth filmed. And the thing is, I almost didn't believe it was real when I first watched it. Not because it was blurry, or edited, or staged, but because everything in it looked so normal. Too normal. That's how the Hollow works. It doesn't show you monsters. It shows you rituals that look like procedures. And it hopes you don't stare long enough to notice the difference. Elizabeth's final recording was labeled "Do Not Watch Alone." She filmed it on a Friday afternoon. Hidden camera. Inside the gym. The setup was simple. She'd taped a small GoPro inside a vent grate overlooking the floor. What she captured wasn't a ceremony, not in the way we think. It was quiet, softly lit. There were maybe 20 kids seated in a circle, 3rd and 4th graders, their eyes closed, calm, as if meditating. At the center was Principal Hampton, standing, still. She wasn't holding anything, wasn't speaking, but her lips were moving, slowly, like she was whispering instructions to something that wasn't there. And the worst part, the room was responding. Not her. The room. The floor rippled, just slightly, as if the wood itself was breathing. No sound, no wind, just that low thrum, like when you hold your ear to the inside of a seashell and hear something that feels alive. At minute 7 of the footage, something changed. The camera picked up a voice, faint, male, young, definitely not a teacher. It said, "I'm not ready. I didn't ask." Then silence. Principal Hampton, she simply placed her hand on the boy's head and said, "That's why you were chosen." At minute 9, the lights flickered. Only once, and when they came back on, one student was missing. No gasp, no panic, just absence. The circle closed in. No one looked around, and the voice from earlier, never heard again. Elizabeth whispered something behind the camera. It's hard to make out, but if you isolate the audio, you can hear her say, "They don't sacrifice, they sort." And I think that's the key. This isn't about blood, or pain, or death. It's about filtration, selection. The Hollow isn't killing children. It's categorizing them, choosing who forgets, who remembers, who disappears. It's cold, mechanical, spiritual only in the way a machine might become holy over time. At minute 13, the bell rings. 3 chimes. The children open their eyes. Principal Hampton claps twice, smiles, says, "Great work today. You're all doing better." And then they leave, smiling, laughing, as if nothing happened. Elizabeth ends the recording with a note. This happens every other week. The same phrases, the same tone. I'm the only one who remembers the missing student. Everyone else calls it mindfulness hour. They even send home permission slips. She included one in the file. It read, "Your child has been selected for enhanced curriculum activities to promote social-emotional development. During this time, they may experience periods of stillness, reflection, and adjustment. Please do not interrupt these sessions. Their growth depends on silence." And then, at the very end of the file, just before it cuts off, something happens. Elizabeth whispers, "I think the floor is watching me." And the footage glitches. Not a normal data corruption, not a file skip. The screen warps, like reality itself flexes. And for one frame, one single frame, you see something underneath the gym floorboards. Not a creature. The face, human, eyes wide, mouth open, pressed against the wood like it's trying to scream, but has no lungs left to make the sound. Then the screen goes black and stays black. I watched that recording 3 times. Each time, something changed. First time, I counted 20 students. Second time, there were 21. Third time, only 18. Same video file, same timestamp. But the number kept shifting, like the recording was alive, or like I was being retaught what to remember. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a haunting. It was a curriculum, an evolving, living system, a set of behaviors taught, passed down, reinforced. The hollow wasn't hiding in the shadows. It was hiding in pedagogy. I went to the Department of Education's public archives and searched for any mention of Hawthorne Elementary in their review logs. There was one entry, just one. A flagged report from 1989, citing concerning language patterns and altered emotional responsiveness in post-lesson behavior. The report was closed with the following note: concerns noted. District deemed compliant following in-person review. Documentation surrendered. No follow-up recommended. School demonstrated exemplary silence. Exemplary silence. That was it. The hollow doesn't need to fight off investigators. It just needs to teach them how not to ask. And the ones who still ask, those are the ones it notices. Those are the ones it redirects. That night, I went to bed and dreamed of desks in rows. Not my old classroom. Somewhere deeper. The desks were made of stone. No students, just rows of clothing. Shoes, backpacks, jackets. As if the kids had been peeled out of them. And all I could hear was the bell. 3 chimes, and a voice that said, "All learning is forgetting." When I woke up, there was a note stuck to my mirror. A sticky note, yellow, torn at the top like it'd been removed and replaced many times. It said, "You saw the footage. You are now part of the lesson. Do not speak it aloud, or it will remember you faster." I'm not scared in the same way I used to be. It's not about ghosts. It's not even about evil. It's about structure. A ritual so deeply embedded into the daily rhythm of life that nobody notices it anymore. And once you've seen it, really seen it, it doesn't go away. It's not in the basement. It's in the way the morning announcements echo too long, in the 3 empty chairs in every yearbook photo, in the way you sometimes forget your 3rd grade teacher's name, even though you remember all the others. That's the hollow. It doesn't need to destroy schools. It just needs to manage them.